Welcome to the session. Topic of this session is process of development, role of resources. You are aware that the development or welfare of population and increasing the pace of development is a major concern in the economies, and the development or the process is very important for the growth of the economy. And many theories say that the development process starts with the development of agriculture sector, and the saving in the agriculture sectors, that is made available to the other sectors, so that production activity start in other sector of the economy. Of course, the technology of the production technology is depend on the availability of the resources, in the type of the resources, the amount of resources available, and based on that the technology, the production technologies depend. For the land scarce resource country or labor scarce country, we have different types of production technology. So the role of resources is very important in the pace of the development of the country. So basically in this session we will be learning about the growth and development. There is a certain dissimilarity between the two terms, the growth and the development. We will understand these two terms. Then we will also understand how agriculture sector growth is important for the development of the other sectors or development of the overall economy, and also we will understand the role played by the resource endowment, the quantities or the quality of the resources, how they play important role in the development process. And of course the investment on the innovation and the human capital is also important. They add in the growth of or in the speed of the development process. So let us first understand the growth and development. Growth can be defined as a sustained rise in the absolute or per capita gross domestic product or gross value added, we can say. And growth means there is an increase in the countries or in the per capita availability of this gross domestic product, and it is an important yardstick for the economic performance of a nation. But this growth does not means always that there is a economic development or welfare of its inhabitants is there. Welfare of the population is there with the growth. So development basically occur when the benefit of growth, the increase in the gross domestic product or the increase in the gross value added, that increase in the GDP is distributed among the people that improve their living standards. So if there is an increase in the living standards of the people of the country, we say there is a development. So economic progress is an essential component of the development. So growth is very important. It is an essential component of the development, but it is not the only component. So the growth is not only component of the development of country as per the Michael Todaro. When we talk about the development, it is basically a multidimensional process. It means that there is a change in the social structure, improvement in the backward people or the tribal people or the scheduled caste people. So there is a overall improvement in the social structure. Then there is a change in the people attitudes, and there is a change in the national institutions. Development of rural institution, extension institution, the the cooperative organization, that is also part of development activities. And development also, the acceleration of economic growth and the growth in GDP is also basically development. And another important aspect of development is the reduction of the inequality. All the people, all the different segment of the society, particularly the vulnerable section of the society, they get something from the economic growth. So it is basically there's reducing the gap between the different sections of the society is also basically a development. And development is basically eradication of the absolute poverty. There are large section of the society who are below poverty line. So how to bring that below poverty line population out of that line? So that is also a development. And actually we have made spectacular growth in agriculture and other sectors. Still billion of people do not have the quality living and basic amenities. So that's why development involve growth with change, and the growth is there, increase in the GDP is there, but also there is certain change in other aspect in the society, like in the change in the social structure and on a change, reduction of the inequality and eradication of the absolute poverty. They are part of the development process. And for the growth and development, agriculture is a very important sectors, and we need to have a growth in the agriculture sectors, but with the development, with the growth, the share of the agriculture in the GDP declined, and the more resources are allocated to the other sectors to provide the gainful employment. And because there is a limited scope to have more labor in agriculture after certain range, so we need to give resources to other sector of the economy so they can provide the surplus labor which are available in agriculture sector. So when we talk about the development, process of development, it is basically harmonious development of all the sectors. Growth should be there in all the sectors. And the agriculture development basically depend on the relative availability and supply of the different resources such as the land, labor and capital. And in case of the land scarce economies, we follow the labor intensive path of development like Japan. In case of labor scarce economies, which is driven by the labor saving technology like USA. And another aspect is of the understand the process of development, and how the resources play a role in the development process, in the growth process. So various theories say that the development of agriculture is a prerequisite for the economic development, and we need to have a sectoral diversification to reduce the burden on the agriculture sector. We need to diversify the economic activities in the country, so that we need to reduce this burden on the agriculture sectors. And agriculture basically contribute to the development of other sector in many ways. It provides the raw material, it provides the market, it provides the product contribution also. And economic development require that the rural people to be shifted from out of agriculture, because there is a limitation of engaging the rural people in agriculture sector. So after certain limit, we need to shift the rural people out of the agriculture sectors, and that's why the development of all the sector is essential to have overall development of the country. And the pace of and the progress of the economic development is also depend on many factors like history of the economic development, how in the history the production process or how they have controlled the country's production resources. So that is also important. And then resource endowment is another important aspect. And then what is the environment, agricultural environment in the country, that all affect the pace and progress of the economic development. And there are different stages of development to attain the full economic development, and different scientists or economists, they have defined different stages. Like Adam Smith said that our society has transformed from the hunting in the prehistorical time and the primitive agriculture times, we were basically dependent on our requirement for the hunting. Then we have started on the pastoral activity, and then we have moved to the agricultural activity. Then after the agriculture, we have moved to the manufacturing activities. These are the 4 different stages given by the Adam Smith. Then Karl Marx identified 4 stages of the development, like feudalism, and then in the feudalism, there is a one king or one person is there who provides security to its population, and then the population, they do some services, and then capitalism, where all the resources is owned by some private individuals, and they undertake the activity. And then communism, and societies take care of all the production resources. Then we have the socialism, which is a combination of the capitalism and communism. So there are different stages of the production, there are different stages of the development process. And there are different theories which explain the role of the resources, and they explain the importance of agriculture in the development process, and the Rostov stage of economic development, and which explain the varying role of the primaries, that is the agriculture sector, secondary, that is the manufacturing sector, and tertiary, that is the service sector, in the process of economic development. And basically this theory given by the W. Rostov emphasizes the transformation process through which the all nations pass through in the development process. So, Rostov have given the 5 stages. He identified the 5 stages through which a society has to pass to attain the full economic development. And now we will discuss about these 5 stages in detail. And the first stage is the traditional society. And in the traditional society, and the economy operates with the limited resources. We have the limited production resources, and that is we can say the most primitive stage of the development. And here we take the subsistence activity. The purpose is to fulfill the family requirement and their basic food requirement, and they consume whatever produced, and there is no marketing facility. And if there is some marketing or something, very limited trade is there. That is also based on the barter system, exchanging of commodities, not the monetary system is not there in this traditional society. And in the traditional society, people have the limited knowledge and skill to utilize the available resources, and they employ the traditional production methods. And agriculture is the most important industry in the traditional society, and land and labor are the main factor of the production, and there is no science and technology, and the productivity is also very low in the traditional society. And then second stage is the precondition for the takeoff. And here, when in the traditional society, we have the primary production activity, that is the agriculture activity, and over the period of time we have some saving in the agriculture sectors, and from that saving get accumulated over the period of time. And in that, after that saving, in the second stage, we identifying some manufacturing activity for the investment. So we started moving from the agriculture sector in the primary production practices to the secondary production practice, that is the manufacturing activities. And here some infrastructure building started taking place, and there's this transformation from the subsistence sector to the encouraging specialization in some activity. So not fully in some activity, we start the manufacturing activity, we start building the specializations, so here we start generating the surplus for the trading. More market surplus is now available because we have already built up some kind of specialization, so we can do some more efficient activity. And the agriculture sector as well as industry both become investment intensive. There is some investment incentives there, intensive is there, because we can there is some return is there, so they become the investment incentive, and the income saving and investment grow over the period of time in the second stage, and the new entrepreneurs emerges. So again they start some manufacturing activity and start investing in the production. And the third stage is the take off stage, and this is the most important stage of this Rostow stage of economic development. And basically here there is a rise in the productive investment, and the around 5 to 10% of the total national income is invested in the production activities, and development of manufacturing sectors with which having the high growth potential started in the take-off stage, and there is a development or emergence of socio-economic and institutional framework, and many institutions they came into existence, and new industries emerge over the period of time, and they expand their activity, and they start yielding high profit. And this the large proportion of this profit is again reinvested in the production activity in the country, and so there is a high rate of saving which are made available to the entrepreneurs. And they actually in this third stage, basically the country start the exploiting the natural resources, and they develop the new methods of productions, and new production technology are generated and they're discovered, and then agriculture become the commercial activities in the third stage of the Rostow economic development. And the fourth stage is the drive to maturity. Here all the obstacles to take-off stage are overcome. Whatever the problem is there in the third stage, that is overcome in the fourth stage, and the country start trading on self-sustaining growth. So there is a self-sustained growth. Automatically investment is coming, new technology is being generated, and so it become a complete cycle, we can say, and automatically investment activity start in the fourth stage. And this growth in the fourth stage persistent for the longer period of time, and here the economy experiences application of the modern technology, and investment rate increases to sustain the output growth. So to maintain the production or to maintain the output growth, there is a more investment, and the rate of investment increases in the fourth stage, and different new technology or industry, different types of product emerges in the fourth stages, and it take almost 40 years after takeoff stage to complete to attain the maturity stage. And the last stage in the Rostow stage of economic development is the age of mass consumption, and all the problem associated with the underdevelopment they disappear here, and society attain a stage of high mass consumption, and there are leading sectors which they shift from the towards the they shift towards the durable consumer goods and services, and the working force change in favor of the skilled workers, and there is a greater employment in the secondary and tertiary sector in the last stage of that is the age of mass consumption. And there is a certain limitation of this theory which is given by the Rostow in the form of 5 stages of economic development. Basically the Rostow model was developed with Western culture in the mind, so they have this model was developed keeping the resource availability or the culture of the Western countries. And this model is not much applicable to the less developed country, and basically it's generalized nature. It is a generalized nature of the model that make it somewhat limited in application to the different environment, and does not set down the detailed nature of preconditions for growth. So, it does not, though it is defined the precondition for takeoff or for the growth, but it not give in detail what are the conditions, the nature of preconditions required for the growth. And also the policy makers, they are not able to clearly identify strategies as they merge with others, they merge it together. Actually, there are 5 stages there, but when they are moving in another stage, it is not clearly identified by this model. Though, it is the, important of understanding this 5 strategies of economic development. It's mainly used to highlight the need for the investment. At least this strategies, they highlight the need of the investment, starting from the agriculture activity to the manufacturing activity to the tertiary activity. Then the another model is the solo model of the economic growth. Basically, this is the exogenous model of the economic growth, and it analyzes the changes in the level of output in an economy over time as a result of change in the population growth rate, and change in the saving rate, and change in the rate of technological progress. So, these are the 3 important factors that have been identified by this model, analyzed by this model. And this model basically highlighted the importance of saving in the process of economic growth. And this model explained how liberalization of the national market could help the less developed country. This model explained the role of liberalization to draw the additional domestic and foreign investment. Thus, we can increase the rate of capital formation, which is equivalent to raising the domestic saving rate. So, this model highlights that if we open up the economy, we can increase the the investment activity or capital formation in the country. So we can start the production activity, or we can increase the rate of the development of a nation. And this is the production function given by the Sholo, that is the y is equal to a EU k to the power a, and then L 1 minus a. So here y is basically the GDP or output, we can say, and k is the stock of the human and capital, on human and physical capital, and L is the unskilled labor or an unskilled worker, and A is basically a constant representing the base level of the technology, and EU is basic constant exogenous rate at which the technology grow, and A is basically elasticity to output with respect to capital and assumed to be less than 1. And this formulation yields the diminishing return to capital and labor. So this is another important assumption of this model, that there is a diminishing return to the capital and labor in the economy. Since in the developed country the capital is relatively more abundant compared to the developing country, and according to law of the diminishing returns, the capital would have lower return in the developed country compared to the developing country, because at the initial stage of the production function, when we add the additional resources, it give the returns, and but when we started adding the more amount of the resources, the increase in the output is less than the previous addition. So that's why there is a diminishing return, and so this that's why as a result of this diminishing returns, the capital would have a natural tendency to go towards the developing country, where the capital would generate more, whereas the rate of return is higher in the developing country, which are basically resource poor or capital scarce country. So best strategy for developing country is to open up the country to foreign capital, to remove all restriction on flow of foreign capital. Then we have the endogenous growth theory, and the solo growth theory failed to correctly identify the sources of long-term economic growth. Especially in the solo models, we have said that any increase in the GNP that cannot be attributed to the short-term adjustment in stock of either labor or capital are ascribed to the third category, that is the solo residual, and this residual is responsible for roughly half of the historical growth in the industrialization. So even after the liberalization of trade and domestic market, many less developing country experienced little or no growth and failed to attack the new foreign instrument or to halt the flight of the domestic capital. So even after the liberalization of the trade and domestic market, many countries are not, particularly the developing countries, they have not experienced the good growth in the economy. So that's why this indigenous growth theory criticizes the solo growth theory. The endogenous growth theory basically discards the assumption of diminishing marginal return to capital investment, and basically it permits increasing return to scale in aggregate production, and basically it uses the notion of externalities to explain the increasing returns. So technology although play an important role in endogenous theory, it is no longer necessary to explain the long run growth. And here the endogenous growth theory which explains the production function as y is equal to ak. Here y is the output or GDP we can say, and the a basically represent any factors that affect the technology, and k represent the both physical and human capital here. And this model does not show diminishing return to the capital or labor. Consider the possibility that the investment in physical and the human capital can generate external economies, and productivity improvement exceeds the private gains by an amount sufficient to offset the diminishing returns. And this theory basically explain how the potentially high rate of return on investment offered by the developing economies with low capital labor ratio, and are greatly basically the potentially high rate of returns on investment which are given by the in the developing country with the low capital labor ratio is greatly eroded by the lower level of complementary investment in human capital, infrastructure and research and development. So this theory suggests an active role of the public policy to promote the economic development through direct or indirect investment in the human capital. So that is the important finding of this endogenous growth theory. And so according to this endogenous economic theory, economic growth is primarily the result of internal forces rather than the external ones. So it argued that the improvement in productivity can be tied directly to the faster innovations and more investment in human capital from the government and private sector institutions. So as per this theory, we need to have innovations in the economy, and also we need to have investment on the human capital from the government and from the private institutions. Now we can sum up this session that we have understand the difference between growth and development. When the benefit of growth is reaches to the all section of society, we can say the development. And we have understand that the agriculture development depend on the relative availability or supply of the different resources, and the Rostro 5 stage of economic development said that the agriculture is important for the economic development, because whatever the saving we have in the agriculture, from that saving we start the manufacturing activity, then there is a cycle setting and we start the manufacturing tertiary sectors growth. And the solo model of economic growth says that we need to open up the countries to foreign capital and to remove all the restriction on inflow of the capital, foreign capital particularly. And the endogenous growth theory said that for the faster innovation and for more investment in human capital is required from the government sector, from the private sectors, so that we can increase the pace of the development in the economy. With this, I thank you.